The jungle screams with the chatter of AK-47s, a relentless storm of lead ripping through banana leaves thick as tank armor. It's 2:17 a.m., March 18, 1968, and Private Nguyen Van Thuc crouches in the muck of fire support base corral, his heart pounding like a tripwire drum. The air reeks of cordite and ruptured bowels, the ground slick with blood that isn't all Australian, but most. Thuc's squad has punched through the wire, ghosts in black pajamas slipping past trip flares, but now they're pinned. Mortars from the Aussie lines crater the earth just yards away, and Thuc's ears ring from the blast that took his commander's leg clean off. He squeezes the trigger, spraying rounds at shadows, but those shadows don't scream and scatter like the Americans did last month at Long Tan. No, these diggers charge forward, dragging their dying mates through the kill zone on their backs, rifles barking defiance. One Aussie, helmet shattered, hauls a gut-shot corporal by the collar, both men crawling inch by bloody inch while bullets whip the air like angry hornets. How? Thuc thinks, bile rising in his throat. How do they not leave him? The line should fracture. Men should run for cover, abandon the weak to save the strong. But they don't. This unbreakable loyalty turns a skirmish into a nightmare. Why would men court death for one broken body when victory demands survival? This wasn't just bravery, it was a weapon sharper than any bayonet. A tactic the Viet Cong diaries later confessed left them frozen in respectful terror. In the brutal arithmetic of Vietnam, where the Australians fought outnumbered and outgunned, their refusal to abandon a comrade redefined warfare, not through overwhelming firepower, but through a brotherhood that haunted the enemy from the shadows. From Thuc's foxhole, the assault unravels like a fever dream. He peers through the smoke, his fingers numb on the bamboo trigger guard of his Type 56 rifle. The old way, the American way, as his platoon sergeant spat during briefings, was brute force. B-52 carpet bombs flattening hamlets, Hueys vomiting troops who then bolted at the first whiff of ambush. Reports from Uncle Ho's intelligence cells painted it clear. At Ia Drang, GIs left 200 brothers twisted in the grass, lines buckling under the human wave myth we peddled to break their spirit. Crude, predictable, a sledgehammer swing you could dodge. But these Australians? From the enemy's trembling lens, they were surgeons with scalpels dipped in madness. Thuc's sergeant, hardened from Tet, whispers over the radio crackle. They come like ants, one for all. No grand charges, no wasteful patrols inviting traps, just surgical patrols, razor-focused, where every man was a link in an iron chain. Intelligence intercepts from captured Aussie radios confirmed it. No man left behind, mates. Diaries smuggled from COSVN archives, declassified in '89, echo the paranoia. VC sappers lay awake, ears straining for the scrape of boots retrieving the fallen, knowing one rescue meant the whole pack would follow. Contrast the scales, and the horror sharpens. Imagine the American M16, a fire hose of 5.56 rounds chewing through 200 clips an hour. Brutal but blind. The Aussie SLR, bolt-action reliable, fired deliberate, each shot a chess move backed by that feral loyalty. Thuc saw it firsthand. His best friend, Lay, flanked a patrol near Balmoral Hill days prior, expecting the usual route. Instead, as Low's RPG shredded a Land Rover, two diggers, faces blackened, eyes like coals, vaulted from the wreck, one firing from the hip, while the other slung the driver over his shoulder. They vanished into the elephant grass, not a whimper, not a gap in their line. Lee's body was found the next dawn, throat slit clean, a booby-trapped claymore waiting for the recovery team. Ghosts, Lou's last letter home called them, mailed from the afterlife via a village courier. Deeper in the base, Thuc's mind races to the briefings in the Cu Chi tunnels, where maps pinned with red tacks marked Aussie positions. They fight like we, the commissar growled, voice echoing off root-veined walls. Small units, ambushes from the high ground, but they never yield ground for. Captured documents from 1st Australian Task Force HQ, leaked in Pentagon Papers footnotes, detail the doctrine, mate to the last. Patrols halved in size if needed, but never fractured. VC after-action reports, archived in Hanoi's Military History Museum, admit the toll. Sappers aborted strikes mid-infiltration, unnerved by flares lighting rescuers mid-haul. One entry, from a sapper lieutenant near Long Bin. We hit them hard at dusk, 50 meters in. Expected panic. Instead, they dragged the dead under fire, counterattacked as one. Lost 3 runners that night to their bayonet. Fear their bond more than their artillery. Thuc wipes sweat-stung eyes. the monsoon drizzle turning blood to rust on his. A grenade arcs overhead, thump, and shrapnel peppers his arm, hot needles urging flight. But the Aussies are closing, their Owen submachine gun stuttering like judgment. Through the haze, he spots it. A digger sergeant, arm mangled, heaving a private whose legs end in rags. The sergeant's lips move. Prayers? Curses? As he shields the boy with his body, firing one-handed. No abandonment, no fracture. Thuc's stomach twists. This isn't war, it's possession. The paradox burns. How does risking all for one make them invincible? As dawn bleeds orange through the canopy, Thuc signals retreat, the hornet's nest too venomous. Slipping into tunnels, slick with fear sweat, he vows to tell the cadres, these fair-skinned devils from down under earn a wider berth than the Yankee hordes. Their "never leave a man behind" wasn't slogan, it was siege engine, grinding VC will through relentless retrievals. In the annals of that night's butcher's bill, 28 Aussies KIA, over 100 VC, the true casualty was certainty. The enemy now whispered of mates who'd storm hell itself for a fallen brother. Yet this was merely the spark at Fire Support Base Coral, prelude to a campaign where that unbreakable code would etch Australian legend into Viet Cong nightmare, forcing even Ho Chi Minh's shadows to recalibrate their terror. Deep in the Cu Chi labyrinth, where roots dripped like veins and the air tasted of fermented earth, Nguyen Van Thuc slumped against a bamboo brace, his shrapnel wounds bandaged with sap-dripping rags. Dawn's assault at Coral had cost his battalion 152, confirmed dead. Bodies counted by cadre scouts at first light, strewn like broken dolls amid the wire. But the whispers in the tunnel grew. Not the body count, but the ghosts who reclaimed their own. Thuc's platoon leader, face gaunt from malaria shakes, gathered the survivors around a kerosene lamp, flickering shadows like accusing fingers. The Australians, unrolling a captured map marked with digger patrol route. They pull back the dying as if death is a debt collector they owe nothing to. At Coral, we saw it. Sergeants dragging privates through our crossfire, turning retreat into revenge. From the VC's huddled vantage, this wasn't mere grit, it was sorcery woven into doctrine. American after-action reports from the same sector, smuggled via double-agent couriers and archived in Hanoi's war vaults, painted a different frenzy. At Firebase Andrea 3 weeks prior, GIs shattered under a midnight probe, abandoning 17 wounded to bleed out in the open, lines collapsing like wet rice paper as Hueys extracted the able-bodied. Crude calculus, save the many, sacrifice the few, fed our traps beautifully. Sappers baited with screams, picked off stragglers at leisure. But the Aussies inverted it, their code a psychological minefield. Diaries from fallen sappers at Balmoral Hill, recovered by 7th Battalion interrogators and quoted in declassified AATTV logs, confessed the dread, they fight as brothers bound by blood oath. One falls, 10 rise to fetch him. Our human waves break on their unity. Thuc rubbed the fresh scar on his arm, mind replaying the briefing maps where Aussie fire bases pulsed like iron hearts. Coral, Balmoral, Renova, each a thorn in supply lines from the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The old way, the Yankee way, was flood and thunder. Operation Junction City, February 67, where 30,000 troops and 500 barrels of napalm scorched 600 square clicks. Yet VC cadres slipped through cracks, reforming in the chaos of abandoned dead. Contrast that sprawl with the Aussies' scalpel. First Task Force intel, pieced from captured SLRs and radio fragments, revealed patrols of 20 to 30 men, razor-thin perimeters where every foxhole linked arms. Thuc's own cadre note, scribbled in a notebook now waterlogged, echoed intercepted transmissions. Negative on evac till all accounted, no man left. It forced paranoia. VC spotters aborted infill 3 clicks out, unnerved by night flares revealing retrieval teams slinking through no man's land. Scale the terror. Picture the American firebase, a football field sprawl ringed by sandbags and razor coils, M60s hosing shadows till barrels glowed red. Wasteful deluge, inviting counter-battery. The Aussie base? A clenched fist. Coral's 6,000-yard perimeter manned by 900 diggers. Owen guns and mortars zeroed to the inch. From Thuc's foxhole memory, it was intimate horror. One digger's scream pierced the barrage at 3:42 a.m., and instead of bunker huddle, mates low-crawled out, one covering with hip-fired bursts, while another slung the casualty fireman's carry, vanishing before RPGs could track. VC runner reports from that night, filed to Kosven and unsealed in 92 Australian War Memorial exhibits, tallied the anomaly. Enemy wounded, not abandoned. Counter moves immediate, coordinated. Recommend wider encirclement to isolate. Days blurred into the push on Balmoral Hill, May 26, 1968, where Thuc's reinforced company, 200 Shadows with RPG-7s and Chicom grenades, encircled the rise at dusk. The plan was textbook: feint east, sap west, exploit panic. Americans would have cracked. At Zakam Mai in April, ARVN screens bolted, leaving 134 GIs to our encirclement, bodies harvested for propaganda photos. But as Thuc's squad breached the wire at 7:15 p.m., pandemonium inverted. Mortar rounds from Balmoral's crest walked backward, cratering earth inches from his boots, while screams, not Aussie, ours, filled the gloaming. Peering through banana fronds, Thuc watched a Digger Lance Corporal, chest holed by AK fire, hauled rearward by his section leader. The leader, bayonet fixed to an L1A1, stabbed left and right like a cornered dingo, buying yards while his mate dragged webbing-rigged straps. No call for dust-off, no fracture. Bullets snapped overhead, one grazing Thuc's helmet, ping like divine rebuke. His radio man yelped into the set, "They retrieve under fire, abort phase 2. Panic rippled. Sappers who'd ghosted past American lines like mist now froze, ears straining for the scrape of entrenching tools on clay. Captured Aussie field journals, translated in MACV briefs and cross-referenced with Hanoi Museum archives, detailed the ritual. Wounded first always. Bayonets out. Form on me. One entry from Balmoral's C Company commander. Lost Wally to RPG at 200 meters. Section 2 recovered under counter-assault. VC broke contact. Thuc's company did. Melting into kunai grass by 10 p.m., leaving 52 dead, the hill unbreathed. In tunnel debriefs, commissars paced, voices cracking. Their bond is our undoing. Like ants carrying eggs from flood, they deny us scalps. Thuc lit a stolen lucky strike, acrid smoke curling like ghosts. This wasn't isolated. Patterns etched VC psyches across the Hatdish corridor. Near Longtan's Echo, October 66 diaries wailed of diggers dragging mates through monsoon mud, while Delta Company held with 108 souls. Fear bred respect. Wider no-go zones around Aussie patrols. Sapper rotations doubled from morale hemorrhage. From the enemy's sweat-slick gaze, these men weren't soldiers, they were a hive. Each retrieval a stinger's promise of swarm. Yet Balmoral's bloodbath was but escalation, whetting the blade for deadlier clashes where that code would force VC commanders to rewrite ambush playbooks, trading numerical edge for the dread of unbreakable men. Sweat-slicked in the Coochie gloom, Thuc nursed his lucky strike to embers, the debrief's kerosene haze etching commissar faces like demons on rice paper. Balmoral's 52 dead haunted the maps, red slashes across the hill's contours. Supply lines kinked from no-go buffers around Digger Firebase. Wider arcs, the cadre barked, pounding fist on a dog-eared 150,000 grid. Their retrievals poison our momentum. Next target, Horseshoe, June 6th. Encircles the trail fork, cuts their patrols. Thuc's name topped the sapper list, shrapnel scar throbbing like a war drum. Horseshoe loomed 20 clicks northeast, a raw earth blister manned by 7 RAR's grunts, fresh from Coral's meat grinder. Intelligence scraps, snatched from a downed Huey scout, whispered vulnerability. Thin wire, patrols stretched foraging the long high hills. From the VC's burrow-eyed stare, Horseshoe promised redemption. Americans would have fattened the trap. Firebase buttons in April, GIs fleeing 40 wounded amid NVA 274th Regiment's vice. Bodies booby-trapped for dawn mop-up. Pentagon Papers addendums, cross-filed with Hanoi's cadre logs, tallied the route. Lines vaporized, choppers winching officers first. Brute exodus, leaving chum for sharks. But Aussies? Their fist-tight perimeters mocked sprawl. Thuc's tunnel mates swapped tails. At Coral's second prod on May 15th, 274th's main force hammered the wire at 11:47 p.m., mortars blooming like hellflowers. Expected shatter, yet diggers low-crawled out, bayonets glinting, hauling legless mates through chest-high kunai, while Centurion tanks growled support. Sapper diaries from that push, recovered by Aussie trackers and quoted in 3 RAR war journals declassified 95, wailed paralysis. One screams 5 emerge from earth, drag the broken, fire unbroken, our flanks curl from their pull. Contrast clanged like SLR bolts. Yankee Firebase, a 500-yard circus tent of concertina and claymores, M79 grenade launchers lobbing 40mm confetti into the dark, floodlit frenzy, sappers threading gaps at will. Aussie horseshoe, a dagger point, 800 yards of scraped clay, 400 diggers coiled like adders, numbered 10 machine guns 0 to 50 meters. Thuk felt it pre-dusk on June 6th, belly crawling through razor grass, RPG-7 slung heavy. His squad, 18 shadows, Chi-Coms primed, flanked west, plan flawless. RPG the gun pits at 8:22 p.m. swarmed the breach. But as the first rocket screamed, cratering a mortar tube, the night inverted. Flares popped starburst, etching 2 diggers in magnesium hell. One prone, gut eviscerated by shrapnel. The other, section corporal, face a rictus, locking arms under the casualty's oxters, dragging backward in syncopated heaves. Covering fire spat from slit trenches. Owen bursts, stitching Thusi's lead runner's throat mid-leap. Thusi's breath hitched, fingers clawing muck. No abandonment. The pair vanished into a redoubt slit, the corporal emerging solo to lob Willie Peets that blanketed the wire in smoke. His radio man set crackled panic. Retrieval under barrage. They form on wounded. Chaos blew. Sappers who'd ghosted American perimeters like fog now milled, eyes darting for the hive surge. Captured 7 RAR signals logs, archived in Saigon MACV vaults and mirrored in COSVN after actions unsealed post-war. Captured the pulse. Casualty Section 4, coords 856432. Form up, bayonets. No evac till secure. 1 digger private per field autopsy took 3 rounds to the chest hauling a signals corporal whose radio backpack trailed wires like entrails. Mates flanked him, F1 frags arcing precise, turning Thuk's RPG gunner to ragdoll at 20 paces. Deeper horror scaled in the probe's unravel. Imagine the American deluge at Back 63 Redux, 11 choppers down, troops bolting cross rice paddies, 50 left twisted for VC knives. Wasteful tide, ebbing to expose bellies. Aussies countered intimate. A patrol's yelp at 9:14 p.m. Thuk's squad converging, only for 4 diggers to melt from shadows, 2 firing hip level, while twins firemen carried the downed scout. Thuk squeezed off a burst. It stitched a tree trunk as the rearguard twisted, bayonet impaling his pointman mid-stride. Blood sprayed hot on Thuk's cheek, the air electric with cordite and ruptured lungs. VC probes aborted at cadre signal, horns lowing retreat by 10:45, leaving 28 sprawled. Horseshoes wire unbreached. Tunnel runners tallied it. Enemy pulls all but 2. Counterthrust denies scalps. Thuk stumbled into exfil tunnels at midnight, lungs burning peat, mind fractured. Debriefs raged under lantern. Commissars unspooling wiretaps of Aussie O Group. Priority 1, recover all. Mates don't die alone. Patterns scarred psyches. Hat-dick secretaries rerouting sappers. 5 clicks wide. Morale logs from 274th noting deserter whispers of unbreakable ghosts. 1 fallen sapper's satchel, per Australian War Memorial transcripts, scrawled final terror. They risk platoon for private, our waves foam harmless. Fear morphed respect. Hose cadres marked Aussie zones taboo, trading 3.1 odds for haunted caution. Yet Horseshoe Sting was mid-act fury, prelude to a ferocious crescendo where Thuk's battalion would clash headlong with that code incarnate, forcing even battle-hardened NVA to etch respectful dread into their annals forever. Thuk's tunnel fever broke under cadre edict. Coral's shadow rises again. 3 days post-Horseshoe, June 12, 1968, his battalion, 274th Regiment Remnants, 400 ragged phantoms swollen with NVA greenhorn, mustered in the flooded roots of Nui Dat's underbelly. Horseshoe's 28 dead mocked their maps, but Coral called louder. The original firebase, reoccupied by 1 ATF's bloodied core, pulsed like a reopened. Intelligence from trail watchers, snatched Aussie ration tins etched with mates eternal, whispered thin defenses, 500 diggers, tanks idled from Balmoral scars, patrols probing Hatdich gullies. This time, the commissar thundered, lantern spit on a grease-smeared topo sheet. We drown their bond in numbers, 2,000 sappers, mortars from the ridgeline. No retrieval survives the wave. From the VC's maggot-eyed huddle, Coral Redux screamed hubris. American fire bases bloated like overripe durians. Contien 67, 50,000 shells a day. Lines frayed by body bag tallies. GIs abandoning foxholes mid-barrage for chopper skirts. 300 left to our satchel charges. Declassified MACV dispatches. mirrored in Hanoi's cadre vaults, chronicled the hemorrhage, wounded triaged like cattle, medevacs winnowing ranks till perimeters gaped, flood tactics, ebbing to feast. Aussies? Their knots defied unraveling. Thuc's scar itched, replaying horseshoes drags, bayonets carving space for the maimed. Sapper notebooks from that route, forwarded to Kosven and quoted in Australian Army History Unit monographs 98, bled confession, enemy forms human chain under Willie Pete, pulls cripples like eggs from nest, our probes recoil, scale the abyss. Yankee sprawl at Khe Sanh, 100 acres of bunkers drowning in red dirt, quad 50s vomiting tracers skyward, blunderbuss chaos, sappers burrowing beneath. Coral's revival? A viper's head, 4,000 yards triple-wired, 400 diggers fused shoulder to shoulder, Centurion hulls hulking like iron Buddhas. Thuc infiltrated at 10:14 p.m., squad belly flat in monsoon slime, RPGs nose through elephant grass. The barrage opened biblical, 82mm mortars from Hill 97 cratering wire at 10:32, earth vomiting sandbags. Shouts erupted Aussie side, flares clawing night to noon. Expect fracture. Instead, the impossible ritual ignited. Thuc's point man, eyes saucer wide, froze mid-sap. A digger scream knifed the din, RPG'd legless at cords 872-419. From slit trenches, 3 mates erupted, blackened faces demonic in flare glare. One prone fired an M60 link belt spitting brass, stitching Thuc's flankers into mud. Twins locked the casualties' harnesses, heaving rearward in frog leaps, F1 grenades arcing blind to shield. No call for Sky Crane, no abandonment. Bullets whined biblical, one furrowing Thuc's pack, thwip, as the trio melted into redoubt shadows. His radio man gibbered, they drag under direct, flanks hold. Panic seeded. NVA greenhorns who'd stormed American wire like termites now balked, ears pricked for the hive hum of counterfetch. Deeper in the maelstrom, horror compounded. At 11:07 p.m., Thuc's platoon breached east wire, Chi-Coms chattering into machine pit. A section corporal crumpled, Owen gun silent, chest pulped. Thuc lunged, bayonet thirsty, only for the downed man's fire team to materialize from smoke. Sergeant low-crawling dragline, privates flanking hipshot, bayonets raking low like scythes. One Aussie took Thuc's runner through the knee, yet slung the corporal fireman's carry, staggering rear, while mates pinned the breach with SLR thunder. Captured one RAR op logs, unsealed in Canberra's War Memorial Aero 3 exhibit, and cross-checked with 274th after action. Pulse the Defiance. Casualty Gold 3 under fire. Section forms retrieval. BIOS fix. Thuc's squad aborted. 2-pin screaming as diggers lobbed foes that seared lungs to vapor. Intimate terror scaled grotesque. Envision American frenzy at Hamburger Hill Redux. Assaults ebbing with 70 abandoned in the wire. ARVN screens vaporized. Waist tied. Scalps galore. Aussies wrought scalpel pact. Thuc witnessed 5 retrievals by midnight. A signals op backpack, dragging his rigger through RPG bloom. Twins hauling a gunner whose numbered 10 trailed belts like intestines. Counter-thrust bayoneting Thuc's RPG loader at 5 paces. Blood slicked Thuc's hands, not victories. His own point's throat slit mid-haul attempt on a feigned corpse. VC horns wailed retreat at 1:23 a.m. Barrage silenced. 267 sprawled in dawn tally per Aussie razor counts. Coral stood, wire patched by noon. Thuc exfiltrated hollowed, tunnels reeking defeat sweat. Debriefs fractured commissars. Their code transmutes death to weapon. One fetched, platoon surges. Wiretaps of digger nets. All accounted push forward. Haunted ledgers. Patton's ossified dread. 274th psi evals, noting Sapper insomnia from retrieval ghosts. No-go radii ballooned 8 clicks. Fallen NVA satchels. Per AATTV interrogations archived 91. Scrawled apocalypse. They court hell for the halt. Our multitudes shatter on mateship. Respect calcified. Hose shadows rerouted regiments earthward, trading encirclement for evasion. Thuc etched his diary. Aussies earn fear beyond Yankees. Never leave a man, never break. Yet Coral's apocalypse was the forge's roar, tempering Thuc's soul for the final inferno, where that code would birth eternal VC taboo, etching Australian specters into victory's bitter ash. Thuc's diary entry blurred under thumb-smudged ink as Cadre Horn summoned the damned July 17, 1968, the anvil of Long Bin's outer ring. His battalion, 274th's Ghosts, now 320 fevered souls fused with NVA 33rd scraps, coiled in flooded paddies flanking Route 15. Coral's Forge had scorched them. Horseshoe and Balmoral left maps weeping red. But Commissar Eyes burned messianic. Anderson's firebase, 1 ATF's rotten core, 300 diggers nursing tank scars. 1,500 of us strike at 2 a.m. Mortars from rubber groves. Their retrieval fetish dies in deluge. Thuk clutched his Type 56, scar tissue screaming prophecy. Intelligence from bribed hooch girls whispered chinks. Patrols bled thin post coral, wire sagging under monsoon rot. From the VC's slime-choked gaze, Anderson beckoned as absolute. American bases sprawled like slain elephants. Long Bin Depot 67, 40,000 troops in a 20-square click morass, lines evaporating under sapper swarm, 400 wounded triaged to Huey meat grinders, while perimeters yawned for infill. Declassified ARVN liaison logs, smuggled to Hanoi via Sihanouk couriers, and archived in military museum vaults, tallied the feast. Abandoned foxholes booby-trapped with Chi-Coms, scalps stacked for cadre tallies. Tidal warfare receding to gorge. Aussies? Their hives mocked entropy. Thuk's tunnel scars replayed the ritual, bayonets carving corridors for the halt. Sapper confessions from Horseshoe, pieced in 3 RAR intel briefs declassified 97 and echoed in COSVN Psi report, dripped dread. They transmute cripples to catapults. One hauled, the line lunges. Scale the chasm, Yankee firebase frenzy at Coochie fringes. A 1,000-yard bazaar of HESCO walls and trip flares. M16s hosing 300 rounds per panic. Shotgun squall, gaps blooming for RPG nests. Anderson, a fang, 3,000 yards of mined clay. 280 diggers welded elbow to elbow. Leopards prowling berms like chained thunder. Thuk's platoon slithered at 1:47 a.m. Paddies sucking boots. RPG-7s nosed through sawgrass. Barrage thundered biblical. 120 millimeters from hidden bunkers. Pulverizing wire at grid 924567. Earth-belching bunkers. Aussie shouts knifed the roar. Star shells clawing black to bone white. Fracture should bloom. Instead, the pact ignited hellfire. Thuk's sapper lead, breath ragged, halted mid-wire clip. A guttural rip. Land Rover RPG'd at 50 meters. Gunner legless in flaming chassis. From gun pits, 4 shadows erupted, flare-etched like Avengers. Lead digger prone, burst his number 10, brass arcing golden as it cored Thuk's flanker through the gorget. Twins gripped the casualty's drag harness, heaving synchronized through shrapnel sleet. F1s lobbed pinpoint to veil. No dust-off wine, no shatter. Rounds clanged Thuk's helmet, clang, as the quartet burrowed into redoubt maw. His signalman choked static. Fetch under zero cover, they swarm. Seeds of rout. NVA fillers who'd pulp American wire like tofu now quailed, nostrils flaring for the counterstick. Carnage scaled intimate apocalypse by 2:32 a.m. Thuk's company knifed northwest breach, AK's threshing machine nest. A section sergeant folded, SLR shattered, abdomen unzipped by grenade. Thuk bayonet lunge, thwarted as the fire team coalesced from phosphorus fog. Lance Corporal low-dragging webbing straps, 2 privates hip-firing Owens in bounding overwatch, bayonets raking arcs like reaper hooks. 1 Aussie absorbed Thuk's runner's burst to the pauldron, gore sheet, yet locked the sergeant's ankles, bulling rearward, while mates pinned the gap with SLR chest shots. Captured 9 RAR signals transcripts, unsealed in Australian War Memorial Digital Archives, Aero 5, and corroborated by 274th Runner Satchel, throbbed the vow. Casualty Blue 2, heavy fire, retrieval priority. Form chain, fix Bayos. Thuk's RPG gunner vaporized in the crush, foe searing to bone as diggers flanked relentless. Horror fractalized. Picture American spasm at Tet's Long Bin assault. January redux, 200 GIs bolting foxholes with 150 ditched in wire. ARVN flanks dust. Ebb tide. Banquet assured. Aussies forged pack sorcery. Thuk tallied 8 hauls by 3:15. A Mortarman backpack dragged through 82mm blooms. Quadruplets ferrying a signals private whose throat gurgled pink froth. Counter-bayoneting Thuk's demo team at point blank. Blades whispering through jugulars. Blood painted Thuk's face, ritual crimson, not triumph. His own lieutenant's skull stove by a flung entrenching tool, mid-feint on a corpse that rose firing. VC NVA horns bade recall at 4:08 a.m. Mortars muted, Dawn razor counts yielding 312 sprawled grotesques. Anderson's wire knit by Ravelli, leopards rumbling defiance. Thuc staggered exfil at false dawn. Lungs peat fire. Battalion eviscerated to 89 walking. Tunnel catacombs reeked terminal despair. Commissars collapsed mid-rant, maps shredded. Wiretaps snared digger net. All souls accounted reform line. A dirge etching psyches. Patterns petrified taboo. 274th evals logged sapper night terrors from mate ghosts. Ambush radii gaped 12 clicks. Regiments vectored Mekong ward. Recovered NVA packs. Per AATTV Saigon interrogations. 92 transcripts. Scrawled terminus. They defy arithmetic. Platoon for private. Horde for one. Respect their chain beyond Yankee thunder. Thuc's final diary. Couriered north pre-arrest. Confessed apotheosis. Aussies birthed dread eternal. Never forsook a man. Forged victory from vulnerability. Respect metastasized. Ho's high command inscribed no-go edict. Trading flesh waves for shadow dodges. Australian spectres haunting annals to fall of Saigon. In war's grim ledger, numbers bend to loyalty's unyielding forge. Abandon none, and enemies abandon the fight themselves.